Hello and welcome back to the Pulse with Willie and Al. We are doing our 16th episode today. It's called Champions of the Regular Season. Pretty fitting title for today, Al. How's it going, man?
Man, it's good living the dream. It is early here. It is 7:18. So if you're noticing, I am wearing a bathrobe. So you know what? Let's roll with it, man. I'm hyped because this is an all baseball episode today. We're gonna break down both league championship series and kind of a little bit of like what happened in the divisional series as well.
Yeah, and to kind of segue into that, kind of a somber thing. So I know you had mentioned we're going to talk baseball today, but I've got to bring in a football analogy with this because I think it's very fitting for exactly what happened to my Braves. And you can see I'm still supporting them. It's just
Yep.
it's going to be a long off season to kind of deal with the pain of losing a repeat way to a team that really I thought was lesser than we were during the season. But Mike McDaniels had an interview this past week when he was asked about the Dolphins and kind of their offensive production this year through the first 5 games, and he said, "Mission accomplished." We had the whole time, the whole offseason, that was our goal, was output after 5 games, and it clearly sarcasm, but that's kind of what it felt
Yeah.
like to watch the teams that I watch, right? The Colts, the Braves, for a number of years, historically great regular season teams, but it means nothing when you can't get it done in the postseason. And it's just really kind of sad and disappointing, but they just didn't deserve it. That's kind of the way I
No.
feel. I look at their MVP that they had in Acuna. He batted 143 in the series, no home runs, no RBIs, and this is a team as we broke down the divisional series. This is a team that lived and died by the home run, and when you're not hitting them and the other team is, you're not going to have a good chance of being able to continue on into the postseason. So,
Well,
uh,
that's the thing with Philly is like they you live and die by the home run. Philly just hit a ton of home runs in the series. Like they couldn't be stopped.
they
Like
they did, and the Braves snuck that one game in from them. They kind of were able to upset them right at the end of the game there with a crazy good double play. But what really rings in my mind was Game 4, bases loaded in the seventh with Acuna up, and that was
yeah,
their best chance to be able to get it done, and he just wasn't able to. The outfielder made a great play on the ball, and it just for me like that after that point it was kind of really rough. But one thing I think you're judged in any professional sports league by kind of not just how you handle winning, because anyone can win, but how you
yeah,
handle losing. And what I heard Spencer Strider say afterwards was there was no excuses to be ready to play. It doesn't matter. And I mean, he pitched his butt off in this series. He really did. He gave you 2 good starts. He gave him 1 run of support. That's just
yeah,
unacceptable, right? This is the guy who won 20
yeah.
games in the regular season, only 20-game winner. And it just, like we had talked about, they're champions of the regular season, but like my father says, they're all playing golf now. So it just
Yeah.
it's really frustrating, but I didn't want this to be an episode about the Braves. I want this to be about the championship series and for both leagues, and just a few things that I want to get off my chest in terms of baseball in general, because I've had a chance to process a little bit of this over the last few days. Is just that the way I see, at least my opinion, I'm not going to say there's many people that think this way, but I feel this way, is that the regular season has been devalued in baseball. And it just seems like they're trying to be more of the same as other leagues, right? The NBA is kind of that way, the NHL that way with the buys. And you know, I don't see them getting rid of the buy. I see them just adding 2 more teams to the playoffs. And it's more money for them if they do that. But it's just
Yeah.
baseball's a game that's played every other day. There's no 5 day rests that exist in baseball. It just doesn't happen like that. If you're a pitcher, yeah, I understand having 5 days rest. But when you go 5 days, your body starts to shut down. It's just you're not used to
Yeah.
being able to play that way. So do you have any thoughts on that at all?
I think okay, it's so funny. So I kind of went back and forth on this. So at first I was in the same camp you were. I was like I thought there should be less days off between the wild card round and the divisional series round. But
Hmm.
then I like really thought about it, and I bet that if you polled every player that was in the playoffs, they would have definitely taken the 5 days rest. Which
Yeah.
which means like which means like hey, that really means something winning their division still. Like because I bet you the Phillies, like if you asked them, they're like, yeah, we would have gladly taken the 5 days rest if we could have. Absolutely.
It's interesting you say that. So like the pitchers, I think yes, but their players, and we're going to get into it here when we talk about their matchup. The
Yeah.
players that are on this team, I feel like other teams are made of corporate executives in the league, but Philly
Yeah.
is like those blue collar workers that, the steel mill workers that are like, no, I'm going to go every single day. You asked me to work a double,
Right.
I'm going to work a double. We got to do two double headers in a row, I'm going to do that. Like
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of the way they are, but I also think you're right. Like most of the time, like and I'm not a pro ball player, so I can't really say, but I think I'd probably take the 5 days too. I just for me, like I saw how I'm biased, right? It affected my team
Right.
and I took it personally, right? I don't know.
Where I think you and I are going to agree is I don't think they should have played the Phillies in the first round because I think what bothered me was that the Braves had the best record in the league all year, and they should have been afforded the opportunity to play the lowest remaining seed.
Yeah, reseed the damn playoffs, dude. I mean,
That's
I'm just,
where yeah,
so
yeah,
angry about that. And like, this is the thing. Maybe the Phillies would have went in and won that series in a game of seven series, right? In the NLCS, maybe they win that and beat the Braves 4 games to 1, right? Maybe
yeah,
that happens and you only get 5 games. Maybe they sweep them. Who knows? But I still think you have a chance for more revenue. Like it just for me, it makes no sense from a logistics standpoint, from a monetary standpoint. I mean, baseball has to understand the economics of that. You're going to
yeah,
get more people to watch that game in the NLCS. And now we're on the verge of watching Philly, and we'll talk about Arizona here, but this is a team that most people are expecting Philly's going to sweep them and go to the World Series. Yeah, or
yeah.
maybe Arizona wins one game, right? Like I don't know. For me, it really bothers me, and I saw this work beneficially in the NFL for the Patriots for years too, where that year that Derek Carr was having an MVP year, he gets hurt. The Raiders were the clear number one seed that year. He gets hurt. Patriots win out. They get the number one seed. They get the bye and basically have a path right to the Super Bowl. Like they were just not going to
Yeah.
play anyone competitive to get there. All they had to do, they had a bye basically into the AFC Championship. And it just, I hate to use football analogies with this, but reseed the playoffs, please.
Yeah.
Like, just
Re-
that really grinds my
Respectfully,
gears.
I don't think it would have mattered with Philly. I think they were going to beat the pants off of the Dodgers as well.
Hmm.
Like honestly, it seems like Arizona, like what I watched of them, they honestly, they just had the starting pitching that like they rode that. And like honestly, I don't know if the outcome's any different for Atlanta
Hmm.
because they just like and I know we'll stop talking about it in a minute, but like what you kind of saw with Atlanta and the Dodgers were like they just and kind of Baltimore too, but I don't fault Baltimore as much because they're a young team with no playoff experience.
Hmm.
So I actually kind of give them a pass. But Atlanta and the Dodgers, like they just weren't ready. Like you had
They,
5 days and like you just weren't mentally ready.
yeah,
Like I
they
don't what are you doing?
I mean, Morton goes down. I get that. Fried was just coming back, so they were a little banged up going in there. But you get 2 games that Strider gives you like that, it's inexcusable not to win those games. It
Yeah.
really is, man. Like, they just got outplayed in every
Yeah. Or at
aspect of
least
the
win
game.
one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least win one of them.
But they
Like
really, Atlanta played well for 2 innings out of that entire series. That's the way I see it in my mind.
yep,
They
the eighth
played,
and ninth innings of
yep,
game two.
yep,
Game two. Yep.
yep. That was it. Maybe it was the seventh and eighth, or did
Or
they
seventh
have
and
to?
eighth. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
seventh and
Yeah.
eighth. But still, like
Yeah.
2 innings. That's all you got. That
Yeah.
just, I don't know. It's going to be a long off season thinking about that, and it really, like I said, none of this matters now. None of it matters. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm going to get more pissed off if we talk more about it, and it's going to get me all fired up.
Well,
So let's
we're
talk
gonna talk.
about let's talk about something that
Yeah, let's
really
talk about
does
the
matter.
Phillies.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
Philly's obviously riding high off dismantling Miami and now Atlanta and stuff. Suarez pitched 2 gems for them in the NLDS. This lineup is just loaded with talent. And I know we kind of talked about that before in our in our MLB postseason conference that we did when we kind of did coverage on them. But why don't you talk about that? Like this is just this batting lineup is ridiculous for Philly, and they've been that way in this postseason. You look at some of these numbers
Yeah.
out; they're ridiculous numbers for a postseason.
Well, let's talk about like Trey Turner in the NLD in the postseason right now. He's 12 for 24.
Hmm.
He's batting 500 this postseason.
Yeah,
Like that's insane.
yeah,
In a clinching game 4, he went 4 for 4.
yeah,
And also then there you got guys like Nick Castellanos, like 2 home runs 2 games in a row. And then what Bryce Harper did in game
yeah.
3, like and like Bryce Harper like is especially to the Philly fans at this point, like that's kind of what he's known for is big home runs in the playoffs,
Hmm.
and they love him there. They love him there,
And
and
yeah, you're right.
that home crowd. I'll tell you what, like I know a lot of times home field doesn't matter for a lot of teams in MLB, but it does for Philly, and you could tell, like,
Yeah.
and especially you could tell in the divisional series against Atlanta, like Atlanta looked a little rattled with that home crowd. Because that home crowd was just loud and yelling the whole time.
Yeah. They're obnoxious, but not in a bad way. I say that with
Yeah,
all the respect in the world for Philly fans because they're some of the most entertaining fans I've ever seen. I've been to games in Philly before, and it's intense, intense. Like it's even
yeah,
in the middle of summer when a game doesn't matter, they're still intense fans, man.
yeah.
Intense. I don't know. You had mentioned him, Bryce Harper. I saw a crazy good interview with him on Pat McAfee the other day. It really it was part of my healing process, I guess, with the Braves. Just he talked about he told a little bit of background on himself about how he had dropped out of high school at 16, which I did not know that. And he was just saying there was a ton of pressure on him to be the number one pick in baseball, and he had to provide for his family and do all of this stuff. And he explained to them that because they asked him like, "How are you able to play well under the bright lights and in the postseason and do all that?" He's like, "That's easy." He's like, "The stuff that I had to do in life to get here, this is easy
Yeah.
now. It's playing in front of a tough home crowd." And he was saying about how he loves going to another stadium where they boo him. I I couldn't help but like him, man. Like he was saying, every guy on the team is a vibe. They're all guys that deserve to play in Philly and embody that team. And that's
Yeah.
something that bothers me, but at the same time, I have a ton of respect for because it showed in that last series. These guys, not only do they play well together, they support each other. They've used the momentum off the crowd to really play better baseball. And when I watched that, I couldn't help but feel a little bit inspired. It's just sad it happened against my team. And I just think,
The Phillies,
yeah,
the Phillies too. They were the definition of team chemistry.
yes.
Like that team just supports each other and loves each other in ways that like it's just like beautiful to see.
You took the words right out
And
of my
to
mouth, man. That's
yeah,
exactly what I was gonna say. Nice
yeah.
job on that.
And that's the thing is like it's not an analytic stat. It's not a stat that you can like measure team
Hmm.
chemistry. You just know it when you see it. And like this team, like this 2 year run that they've had, they love each other. And like they're doing it this year without Reese Hoskins. Like and also too, their pitching this year is I mean, you talk about Nola and you talk about Zach Wheeler, but Ranger Suarez was really the kind of the a big reason why they won this series.
Yeah, you shut down the
Pitched
Braves,
twice.
man.
Yeah. Yep. Pitched twice. Like he has an ERA in the playoffs right now of like 1.04. Like
Yeah,
yeah,
he's done
when you're
very
pitching
well.
lights out like that, you're gonna go far.
Yeah. It's a team that makes it very difficult to root against when you see coverage of them and you realize how these guys bond around the city. Like there was rumors that when Bryce Harper had hit free agency, like he grew up a Yankees fan, man. Like he even talked about it like Jeter, Bernie Williams, Paul O'Neill, Jorge Posada, all those guys. He was a big fan of them and he wanted to go play in a Yankee uniform. But there was rumors that like he didn't even get a phone call from them on that. And
Yeah.
he didn't really even play into that question. He really just said like I'm a Philadelphia Philly through and through. Like
Yeah,
I deserve to be here. Like this is the I love playing for this squad. And it's really I don't know. He's one of my favorite guys now after seeing that interview, and it's amazing how you can flip. It can be very polarizing to see him and you hear all this bad press about him, but then you see his personality come out and you realize like this is a guy that has had to fight for everything that he's gotten. So how can you
yeah,
not want to support through your support and wait behind a guy like this now? Um,
yeah.
but
I,
let's yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say on the other side of it, the team they're facing,
Yeah.
also it's two teams that are red hot right
Hmm.
now, and they're both gonna have an equal amount of rest. It seems. Well, Arizona's gonna have an extra day rest, but they both now have a chance to line up their rotations the way they want.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm Arizona, man. It's Corbin Carroll. It's Corbin Carroll, and he batting leadoff for that team is just he sets the table for him.
Well, you were saying before, like when we were talking about it, maybe last week it was like that you just can't pitch to this guy.
No,
There's just no way you can do that because he's going to hurt you in one way or another if you decide that to throw the ball his way.
yeah,
It
yeah.
just,
It's Corbin Carroll. It's Marte. You know, it's they have a very good top three, top of the order. It's very top heavy, and it's gotten the job done for them so far.
yeah.
And to be honest with you, I'm really interested to see what they can do against this Phillies team. They have the pitching to at least kind of match them, and I'm not sure at this point what if they have the hitting. But like honestly, I didn't think they were going to win a game this postseason, and they're in the NLCS.
Dude,
So what do I know?
dude, not just you, man. Vegas wasn't considering them. They're not considering them now. They weren't considering them against the Brewers or the Dodgers. Dude, they have not lost a game in the playoffs.
Yeah,
They're one of two teams that to do that, and that's incredible. If I had asked you at the beginning, name a team that's going to go undefeated in the playoffs, you would not pick Arizona. They would probably
no,
be one of your last picks. You know, it's
no,
I look at that now, what they've been able to do, and they're holding that underdog mentality, which is awesome. They're not obviously not listening to the outside noise. They just embarrassed a very, very talented Dodger team. It's
yeah,
I don't know, man. Like what I could see, and you never know how things can happen because you see it in other sports as well. Like a good team gets on a good run, and you're like, no one's going to beat them, and then they play a team that is kind of up and coming, and get beat, and you're like, wow, how did that happen? Maybe this is the team that cools Philly off. I don't know. I don't think they will because Philly just seems like they're on a mission this year. But
yeah.
I just
Yeah, they Philly has some unfinished business vibes that I don't think it matters who they play. Like
but you're going to get two starts out of Gallon in this at least.
sure are.
And
Yep.
that's I don't know. I mean, the Phillies did pretty well against Strider. And they didn't do
Yeah.
great. He shut him down for the most part. But Gallon's another guy like that who can
Yeah.
go in and shut them down, give their team 7 innings, around that 6 7 innings, and that for a starting pitcher now is a big deal. So I don't know, man. Maybe Arizona does get a shot and keeps it close in this series, but my pick is Philly for this series. I think they're going to be able to go, and I think they get back to the World Series again.
I think so too. And I think what's even more wild about Arizona is they ended the year on a 4 game losing streak. They ended the year losing five of their last seven.
Yeah.
So nobody had these guys. Like
Hmm.
so what they're doing is just insane that they were able to just flip a switch. I too think it's gonna be Philly. I think it's gonna be Philly in 5 games.
Okay.
Because I do think Arizona is going to steal one of the first two,
Hmm. Yeah,
but
they're
I
going to
don't think
have
it's really
to.
going to matter.
Yeah, they're going to have to, man. This is the thing. I don't. Arizona's going to have home field in this, from what I understand, right? They're
No, the Phillies are.
Oh, the
Phillies
Phillies
are because
are.
they have the better record. Yep,
Oh, okay. All right.
yep,
I think, and this is the thing, it's going to be really tough for Arizona to beat Philly in Philly. That I don't know, man. It's going to be difficult for them. So I can't wait to see the series and see how it kind of plays out and see if Philly can
yeah,
remain hot or if Arizona really is that team that cools them off and gets back to the World Series. It's been what, almost 20 years, right?
yeah. So the last time the Diamondbacks have been to the World Series was 2001.
Okay.
that was the season during 9/11. So baseball got canceled for a week. So it was
Hmm.
the first World Series played in November. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, and it was a 7-game thriller, and it ended with Luis Gonzalez getting a walk-off hit off Mariano Rivera. And
Yeah.
this is what Mariano, when man, he doesn't blow saves in the playoffs. So
No, no, he doesn't. As
yeah,
automatic as you can be. So,
yeah, and then the Phillies, they went to the World Series last year,
yep.
but they haven't won the World Series since '09. They
Hmm.
beat Tampa that series. Yeah, so it's just going to be fascinating.
Yeah.
Like I said, I really do think it's going to be Philly, but I, I really hope Arizona kind of gives them some fight.
Yeah.
I'd really like to see that because these guys have been scrappy all playoffs, and I just really would like to see what could happen.
Well, speaking of two teams that agree with you on that and are hoping that Arizona does give them some fight or possibly steal this series from them, let's talk about Texas and Houston because I don't think either one of these teams wants to play against Philly in the
No,
World Series. I don't think Houston wants a rematch against them, and I don't think Texas wants to play them either. So this should be a pretty exciting series as well. I look at Texas. This is the other team that hasn't lost in the playoffs this year. Two sweeps. Like what I'm very surprised because neither Arizona nor Texas would have been the teams that I would have thought would have been able to sweep their way through the playoffs so far.
yeah. Well, it's wild too because I first of all I think this is going to be a great series.
Hmm.
I think this is going to be a 7-game series. This is going to be this is just going to be two heavyweights with great offenses just punching each other in the mouth
Hmm.
that happen to also have really good pitching. So this is just going to be some really good baseball, and you've got two. I know this isn't sexy to talk about, but both teams have insanely good managers that are just make calls that are they're two managers that play 3 moves ahead of everyone else.
Right.
So when they're going up against each other, I can't wait to see that.
Yeah.
I cannot wait.
It's who can play four-dimensional chess now, right? Like it's
Yeah,
it's going to be kind of nuts.
yeah.
Well, one of the big storylines here is, and I read an article about it. Scherzer coming back? Is this what we're getting?
He is. Yep.
Huh.
He is on the ALCS roster. He's not going to pitch game one. It does look like it's Jordan Montgomery against Verlander for the
Hmm.
game one tonight. So disclaimer, we're filming this on Sunday. And so by the time you listen to this on Monday, game one of the ALCS will have happened.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah.
Good news for you, man.
Yeah.
I'm uploading this
Yeah.
today. We're
Bad
gonna
news
give
is
them
the
the
game just
content, baby.
yeah. But bad news is the game starts at 8:15 at night. And
Yeah.
that's why can't we just start at 7? That's
Ah,
I'm not asking for much.
you want to be able to watch it. That's like just makes it more
Yeah.
difficult. So,
Yeah.
not to mention there was a lot of anger going on that I heard on ESPN and stuff with them changing the time of the game. What was it? Houston and Minnesota, because the Orioles had lost, they moved up the game, or no, they moved it to a night game instead of a day game for Houston, Minnesota. Did you see that?
Yeah, yeah. Houston, Minnesota just had wonky times they were playing this whole series,
Hmm.
and I only knew they were on because I checked the schedule, and I was like, oh, it's 2 in the afternoon and they're playing. Okay, great, but yeah, they were always on at weird times.
Yeah.
But that being said, with Texas, it starts with Corey Seager.
Yeah.
Corey Seager is getting essentially at this point the Barry Bonds treatment where they're just walking him.
Hmm.
They're just like, you know what? We're not, excuse my language, we're not fucking with this guy.
Yep.
We will take our chances elsewhere. But it doesn't matter because he's hitting what 429 in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's 6 of 14 right now in the playoffs. But he's been walked 11 times in this
Yeah.
postseason already.
That see
11.
that's the crazy part of it is like they're just feeling like we can't bother pitching to this guy. I think
No.
he carries with him an extensive resume from LA and
Always a big postseason performer.
yeah,
Yep.
a very big postseason performer. So I think it's a very good managerial call to walk him and try to get around him because trying to pitch to him, he's a game wrecker. He can absolutely blow up a game in front of your face if you decide you're
Yep.
going to throw at him. So I don't know. I think if it were me, I'd be walking him every time. It just,
That's what teams have done.
yeah.
Yeah, and the times he does get to pitch, that's the problem. Or he gets to hit. That's the problem. He's still killing guys.
Hmm.
Like, yeah, when you're still hitting over 420 like in the playoffs and you're getting walked 11 times, like means teams are still pitching to you and you're still making them pay. So
Well, talk about postseason experience. There's quite a few guys on the other side that have a lot of it, and it was kind of interesting. It reminded me of one of my wrestling matches in high school, where I wrestled this kid. I wrestled it up at 215 when we went up to Essex, and my dad bumped me up. I was like 165 pounds, something like that. He wrestled me at 215, and I went out against this kid that was like fifth in the New Englands, and he let me shoot in,
yeah,
and he like caught me under my arms and like pushed me back, and then he shot in, took me down, and pinned me, and like I don't know, like he was very gentle how he put me down, and then he picked me right
yeah.
back up to my feet, and that's kind of what it felt like with Houston letting Minnesota win one game. Was like, listen, we'll let you win one, but now it's time for us to continue on. Good luck next year,
Well,
and we're going to continue.
I think the series is a little different if they just don't pitch to Jordan Alvarez. Like he was 9 for 16 with 4 homers in this series, and he single handedly murdered Minnesota by himself.
Yeah, but think
Like,
about that,
don't
Al.
pitch to that dude.
You
He will
don't
hit it
rec,
500 feet.
but you don't recognize that when it's happening. Like, okay, so he beat you once, twice, three times. Like, you're still going to continue pitching to him? Even if you
Yeah,
walk a guy home, it's better than pitching to him and him hitting the ball out of the park, right? Like it just for me, I never it bothers me when I see teams walk guys like that, especially when they're on your team. But
yeah.
I don't know, like it's a strategy, right? You need to be smart about it. And if you know there's an easier out after him, walk him. Even if you give
Yeah.
up a run, it's still worth it. It's still worth
Oh,
it.
six of his 9 base hits went for extra bases, which is
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
And
That's
4 of those hits were home runs.
well, I mean,
Yeah.
this is kind of crazy too because this is a team that I think you could definitely call them a dynasty at this point with the amount of how good they've been the last 10 years. Like you look at it and my biggest question is this the year Dusty Baker gets a ring? Right? I'm looking at it, they're definitely a great team. Does he get back there and do it against Philly like, again? I don't know. Like what's going to end up happening? Like is it going to be
Well,
his shot again this year or what's going to happen?
I think too, like what needs to be talked about is this is the 7th straight ALCS that Houston has made, and that
Yeah.
that needs to be like talked about. Like that's I know, say what you want about 2017, and like we're all mad about it. Like,
Hmm.
but like the fact that everybody in the league hates this team with such vitriol that and they're just kind of like rising above it each year. And each year they're like, there's a target on their back and they're playing through it. And, they made the World Series in 2017, 2019, 2021, last year. Like, you know what I mean? Like four of those 7 trips they've gone to the World Series. Like,
Well, and I think
that's really impressive.
people get mad when you start throwing around the word dynasty because they're like, oh, always know this other team was better and this and that. Listen, at this
No.
point, when you've had 7 years in a row of being there and being relevant, you're the gatekeeper.
Yeah.
You are.
Yeah.
Like if teams need to get through you to get permission to go to the big dance. They've got to.
Yeah.
So I just,
Yeah. And
I
if
think
you
I
can beat
misspoke
them,
there
kudos to
because
you.
what's that?
And I was gonna say, and if you can beat Houston to get to the World Series, kudos to you. Like
Absolutely.
you've done well for yourself.
You're
Yep.
right. I was just going to say, I think I
Yeah.
misspoke there because what I was trying to say was Dusty Baker, I want him to get one for the pinky ring. That's,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because if I was to wear two, I kind of would want one like on the pinky. I think I wouldn't put one on the
Yeah.
middle or the index or even the thumb. Like I'd go pinky next. So,
Hot take. I would stack them on my pinky. That's the move. That's the move.
man,
Yeah.
that would be
Yeah.
awesome. Well, I mean, I don't think we could talk about this team. And listen, I know Dusty Baker's the manager. I get that piece of it, but I'm really excited to see Verlander have a chance again. And it seems like this guy just gets better in the playoffs. For me, I
Yeah.
love watching him there. because he's a guy that just, I mean, what's not to like about this guy, really? Like, he's a great pitcher. He's got an amazing girlfriend, or is it his wife now? Like,
They're married. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
this guy's got it all. Get him another ring,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. He really kind of kicked off this run because they traded for him at the deadline back in
hmm
2017, and like he just went on a bender after that season for the rest of the year in the playoffs, and he was a big reason, they won in 2017, that and trash cans.
yep,
But still, like, um no, he's the heart and soul of that team. It's him, it's Abreu. Those two are really like the and Bregman too, to some extent. Like, they're the leaders of that team. They've been there the longest with that team, and you know what I mean. Like, they they're just a really well run organization, and
hmm
that clubhouse is always, you know what I mean. They grind. This year was a down year for them.
it
They
was,
won 90 games,
yeah,
and like they
a
had to
down
they had to
year.
claw. Yeah,
That's
yeah, they
funny.
had to claw to get. You know what I mean. They won the division on the last day of the season to get that rest, and I'll tell you, like, and I said this at the beginning of our playoff preview episode, like, until somebody beats the champs, like, I'm still gonna keep picking them.
Well,
Like,
that kind of opens it up because I've got to ask you, like, how is this team different from the team last year that beat the Phillies? Like, what is different about this team that you think maybe gets them not only to that game but gives them a chance to win the World Series again? And like, what changes have they made to kind of ensure their continuation of dominance?
well, so they got Jose Abreu in the offseason, thinking that was going to really, really kind of help them. And Abreu had a really down, like, Abreu was also getting older. And this was the first time you kind of saw like the slip in bat speed. And he just didn't have it really much in the regular season. Like, hit for an okay average, but the power was way down. Since the playoffs have started, like, Abreu has just been murdering the ball again. And and two, like, when he's on fire, like, that just means that's one more thing you have to worry about in this lineup. Like, and there's no easy outs in this lineup, and you have to, like, that's, as a starting pitcher, if you're going through this lineup the second time through, you've got to be exhausted because you have to make perfect pitches, or else it's going to be a long day.
hmm
And I think too, what I also, with Houston this year, they've manufactured a lot of runs in ways that you weren't really expecting. Like, a lot of times, this team is just they hit a lot of home runs. This year, they've had to kind of manufacture some more runs, like playing small ball, and it's been really interesting to see. I really like that. So
hmm
that just shows that, like, A, they're managed really well. B, they're just able to adapt and improvise where they have to.
Yeah. Now, who do you have for this series?
I said, man, I until somebody beats the champs, I'm going to keep taking the champs. I think it's Houston in 7.
Well, I'm gonna pick Houston as well. I'm gonna say I want to see 7, right? But in the stakes of being different, I'll pick 6 games. But let me ask you one
Yeah.
question because you did pick Houston. If Philly does make it back to the dance, do you think Houston can hold them off?
I thought last year that Philly had this, like, and you know what I'm talking about when I say this. Like, I thought Philly last year was this team of destiny,
The mojo.
team that just, like, yeah, man, they were rocking, they were rolling. Harper hits that huge homer against the Padres to essentially win the pennant for them. This year, that just seems like there's a lot of unfinished business with the Phillies, and I want to take Philly, I do, but again,
Until you beat the champs.
until somebody beats the champs, like, I'm gonna keep taking the champs. Like,
Yeah.
they're Houston's the defending world champs for a reason. Like, until somebody can beat them and prove to me otherwise, like, I'm just gonna keep picking them. Like,
Yeah. I'm personally hoping to see Houston and Philly again. I want to see that rematch and I want to see
me too.
a great 7 game series. But regardless, we will be back next week to make sure that we go through and give you a nice World Series preview because that's going to be a
Yeah.
fun one to be able to go through, and I can't wait to be able to break down those teams. It's going to be a very exciting week of baseball. We will be back this week twice as well, and give updates on some of the games that go on. So that way we can keep you
Yeah.
updated, providing extra coverage in terms of the AL and NL Championship Series. But we will be back with some football. We got another game in London today. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I just heard, I didn't realize it, but I just heard that I think, what is it, week 9, we're going to get Kansas City and Miami
Germany.
in
Yep.
Germany.
Germany game.
I
Yep.
cannot wait for that game, man.
Yep.
That's going to be awesome. So I love the fact that we're having some European games. It makes me feel a little bit closer to the NFL being here in
Yeah.
Istanbul, but it definitely, I'm very excited for this week of baseball. It's a very exciting week for football as well. I know we're going to be able to break down some really good coverage from the Sunday and Monday games on Wednesday for you. We'll be recording that Tuesday, but releasing it to you on Wednesday. And then again,
Mhm.
we'll be back on Friday. So I'm real excited for this week and what
Yeah.
we have. Anything else you wanted to say before we bounce out here?
Also, quick thing about Texas. And I think we talked about this. Maybe we didn't, but
Yeah.
Texas, the second half of the year, they kind of were slumping a little bit, and they credit the band Creed for turning their fortunes around. So, like, hey, don't bet against Scott Stapp. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I'm so glad you brought that up. That may be the title of our next episode. Uh, have faith in
With arms
Creed.
wide open.
Yeah, with arms wide
Yeah,
open,
just
right? Like if
yeah,
Texas ends up blowing this open and winning, it could be great. So
yeah.
it's gonna be awesome. I can't wait to watch some of these games and kind of see exactly what's gonna happen. But yeah,
Me too.
very exciting story. But just want to remind you guys, listen, if you enjoyed the video, make sure you drop a comment. Make sure to smash that subscribe button, like the video. You could email us at thepulsewa@gmail.com. Find me on Twitter as well at Willie Creeman FF and on Twitch. I'll be on there in a couple hours today on Willie Creeman. And then I'll be kicking off Willie's Fantasy Football Kickoff Hour in, I think, about 3.5 hours here. So, but Al, listen, I love you, brother. Glad we were able to rock this out. And I just got to say, this is like, I know these episodes mean a lot to you. It
Yeah,
fills me with such joy to see like you smiling through this and you enjoying this. It
yeah,
really, I can't even tell you how good that makes me feel.
yeah. I've had a love affair with baseball since I was 5. Like I'm not obsessed with many things, but like baseball is, it's an obsession, and I love it, and it's a beautiful sport that, yeah, man. I'm glad when we get to talk about it, because it is, just warms my heart.
It definitely is awesome to see. So, and I could tell it fills you with such happiness. So,
Yeah.
listen, have a great day, bro. I know I'll be texting you about some football, but love you, brother, and have a good one, okay?
All right, man. I love you too, Willie. Stay safe, man.
All right, take care. Peace.
Peace.